Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Listeners, today we're talking about complaining. We all do it, and we can all use some tips to do it less. Join us as we share where we rank on the complaining scale and what we're doing to solve some of our most common pain points. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about something we all do, but we don't like other people to do it. And Julie and Mindy, can you guess what this is?
I'm intrigued already.
Yes, you are right. I know you guys secretly already know what it is, and it is complaining. Listeners, how many of you got that right? And there are so many justified and unjustified things in life to complain about. So today we're going to have a fun discussion, and we also hope that it's helpful about why we complain, what we complain about, and how we can learn to complain less. First, let's take a look at what we think about ourselves. So, do we think that we ourselves complain a lot? And who wants to tell on themselves first?
I'm going to go first because I never complain.
And you never lie either, right, Mindy?
Never, ever, ever,
I'm
ever,
done.
ever.
I'm not talking to you.
No. Does it count if you complain to just one person? Or if it's maybe a certain time of the month?
Don't all women get a free pass for that?
Yeah, that doesn't count.
All right, Julie, do you think that you complain a lot?
Yeah, unfortunately, I know I complain, and I'm probably on 1 to 10. I might be a 7.
Okay, 7? Okay.
And I do not want you to tell me what I am.
No, nobody. No, yeah, you don't want anyone else to tell you who.
This is a safe place.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And, if you ask John, he might say I'm an 8 or 9. Who knows? Like, it depends on, like you said, Mindy, who you're complaining to.
Yeah.
Who hears it the most might have a different response.
Right, right. Okay, so now it's my turn to tell on myself, I guess. And, on the surface, I would say no. Like when Julie sent out these questions, I really would say no. Like, I feel like the household I grew up in, my parents were always like, I don't want to hear you complain unless you're going to do something about it. And they themselves have a very can-do attitude. Like, you just do what you have to in life and you just do it. And yeah, you might complain. I'm not saying they never complain, but they're just more doers than complainers, I feel like. So I just feel like there never really was a very sympathetic ear in my household for complaints. And the unspoken message was kind of keep it to yourself. I feel like. Now, maybe my other siblings wouldn't say that, and I didn't ask them. But I don't know. That's where I attribute the fact that I would say, no, I don't complain a lot. And I actually did ask my daughters. One was home on fall break and one lives here, and we were all together. And I said, do you think I complain a lot? And they were like, no, I don't think you complain a lot. In fact, when we try to complain, one of them said, you try to hype our life up, even if you know it sucks. They said, I listen to a point and then I say things like, I promise when you look back, you're going to laugh. You're going to be fine. You'll get through this. And that really did sound like me.
So their complaints are falling on deaf ears.
Right.
Mom's got no mercy.
Right. But so I was feeling pretty good about myself, thinking that, I don't complain a lot. But then I was driving one of my daughters around on fall break, and we happened to hit a lot of traffic. And I start complaining. And she goes, Mom, I take back what I said. You actually do complain a lot about traffic. I'm like, I know. And I think what I do is, like my one daughter said, you don't complain about people or circumstances very much, but you complain about things that you perceive are unjust or unfair, which isn't it always everyone else's fault that there's traffic and these stupid drivers, if they just knew how to get in the other lane and move it? Or I like to complain about the government. I'm more than willing to sit and complain about government.
Because there's a lot you can do to change that one.
Yeah, I know.
See, that's all you can do. So.
Complain about
Exactly.
Yeah, and then they said I never hesitate to complain to customer service. And they
Ooh.
said I don't do it like in a rude way, but like if something's not the way I think it should be, or they didn't follow what they said they were going to follow, or this is not fair, it never bothers me to just go up and make my dissatisfaction known. So
That's a constructive criticism.
yeah, we'll get to
Complaint.
that later maybe, but I just thought it was interesting, like we can perceive ourselves one way and then we
Right.
can perceive others. But I also wanted to make this distinction early in the episode. You know, I said that I don't think of myself as a big complainer, but when I thought about it a little bit deeper, I thought that instead of complaining to myself, I tell myself that I'm dreading a lot of things. And I think that's a
Mm.
private way of internally complaining.
Yeah, that's an internal complaint. Yeah.
Yes. And
Okay.
I dread a lot of things, like things
Yeah.
that I don't want to do, things that I'm coming up that I really, really don't want to do, things that I'm afraid of. Like maybe it's because I don't feel like I can complain out loud. I internalize a lot of it as dread. And so I do think that that's a form of internal complaining. What do you guys think?
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's complaining, even if no one hears it, because you know, it's a process you're going through with your thoughts. Because I think that's what complaining is for me. It's almost like thinking out loud.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're going to talk later about some of the byproducts of complaining, some of the negative byproducts that it can produce in your own life. And it produces that for me internally.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's not a positive thing, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
There may be other people out there that would say they don't complain, but maybe internally they really do.
Well, it's funny. I think, it's really hard to self-evaluate this. You
Mhm.
know, I'd almost have to have a hidden camera because, like, I
But
think
we
I
don't
do a
really
good
want
job. Like, yeah, exactly. I'm thinking Frankie Heck again on the middle, you
Oh,
know,
yes.
where they
I
record
just
each
saw that
other.
episode the other night.
Oh my gosh. But it's funny because, you know, like I know sometimes, especially when with your kids, you're the person that they're going to complain to.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I want to be a safe place for you guys to complain because I don't want you, you know, wearing out your friends or whatever.
Mhm.
At the same time, then I feel like I have to give my complaints to somebody else. So I call Bryce. So then it's like, okay, they dump on me. I dump on him.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, who does he dump on? Well, I mean, he might dump back on me, but it's like, okay, where does all this, like, you're tossing it around, you know?
It's so true. So true. All right. Well, when do you tend to complain the most? Like what situations really get you complaining?
Listen,
Uh.
even though I never complain, you know, because I already said that, possibly I might complain more if I'm tired.
Okay.
And I might possibly complain more when I'm hungry, like just hands down. both of
Hungry. I
those.
forgot about hangry.
Yeah.
Yes. Julie, do you have any circumstances that you just know are going to set you off?
Yeah, I think when I'm frustrated with, like you said, Maria, I hadn't realized it until you said that. When I'm more frustrated with other people and they're not meeting my expectations, like people in traffic, the CVS pharmacist,
Oh, yes.
Oh.
You've actually complained to me about the CVS pharmacist.
Oh, no.
like the line is so long and I'm there every day and it just seems like it's a constant problem. Like it's never just a smooth transaction.
Oh.
And yet, do you switch to Walgreens? No.
Well, I can't. My insurance says this is where we have to go.
Oh,
Now, I think I
okay.
could go to Costco, but to me that sounds like a bigger nightmare. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna make do with CVS. And yeah, this is not too. I'm not even going to say which one I go to because it's
Mhm.
probably not a complaint or a problem everywhere. But
It is probably a problem everywhere. I could seriously say the same thing about Kroger, though. Pharmacies
well, I hate
in
to-
general.
I hate to throw the pharmacist under the bus since that's my profession. But
Right.
I get very frustrated at the grocery store just because of the whole process and no checkers and self checkout and not having what I want. And so those are kind of my top three. And then actually probably what I complain about the most, and this is a really, really important thing, the
Mhm.
weather.
Oh.
Oh,
Have you noticed that, Marie? Because you
Juliet.
said one time, like, you never are conscious of the weather. And that's
No.
like the thing I talk about all the time.
I've never
Oh.
really noticed that about you.
You have it? Okay.
But I will say, my very beloved grandmother, the reason I don't ever complain about the weather is because her mood rose and fell with the weather. And my parents used
Oh.
to complain that she did that. And so I grew up with the thing of you don't let the weather affect your mood.
Oh.
And so I don't. I don't even
You
look
dread it.
outside. I don't even
There's
look
the
outside.
sun today. And then, it gets raining. Oh, I hate rain. And then it's like, gosh, we need rain.
Then you start arguing with yourself.
Yeah.
Marie's just dreading it on the inside.
Well, I will complain if I'm getting wet, but I never look
Mhm.
outside and say, oh, the sun is shining, I can be happy. Or, oh, it's raining, now I need to be sad. Like, that was how her mood
Mhm.
was. Like, if the sun was
Mhm.
out, she was happy. If the sun was not out, she was unhappy.
That is so true what you just said, though, that hearing a family member
Mhm.
complain about something so much. I have learned what not to complain about by hearing things complained about so much by certain people. And it's
Yeah.
funny because every person, even Julie raised her hand about the weather. That's so funny because I think that we probably have something that we complain about or, categories
Mhm.
that we
Signature
fall.
complaint.
Yeah, signature complaints. Like that's your style.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Julie, just recap. The pharmacy, did you say traffic and the
Traffic,
weather?
The grocery and the weather.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are
The
the top four.
grocery and the weather. Okay. All right. When do I tend to complain the most? Well, like I said, I take secret pleasure. I mean, of course, I wish that it would function more efficiently and just the way I want it to, but I think I do take secret pleasure in complaining about the government. It's just a nice topic to complain about. Like, I listen to my podcasts that also complain about the government every day with glee. Like, yes, I agree. You are so right. Why don't they do that?
Well, it's fun because you can always find people that are going to
Sure.
agree with you. Yeah.
Yes, and we tend to like to kind of complain about the government just in our household. Like, that's just kind of a family culture. It's not that we're like getting so depressed that we can't get out of bed. It's more like this is kind of a fun topic to argue and complain about.
It is kind of
My
fun. Yeah.
goodness. I do remember talking with friends and they were talking about these popular shows on TV. And I tried to watch one time because I was like, oh yeah, I want to, I don't want to be missing out. And so I tried to watch it and I was like, so annoyed. All the people did was complain. I'm like, you guys are stressing me out. Like, just be quiet. And I couldn't watch it. And when I got together with the friends, I'm like, I just can't watch that. I'm like, they are stressing me out. All they do is complain.
Yeah, I definitely complain about bad drivers. And one time my son really called me out on the fact that I will complain unendingly as if the world is ending if I have to wait in line for gas. I hate to wait in
Mhm.
line for gas. There is just something about that burns me up so much. I'm burning gas while I wait to get gas. Why? It just burns me up. I don't know why.
I feel like I've just changed my complaints to like snarky comedic like interludes because I just I'll sit in the car and I'll make up these snarky comments towards other drivers and the boys are like, Mom. I'm like, let's go, Grandma.
Right.
I like to complain too about things that don't work as like they're supposed to work.
Right. Everything should work like the Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
Yes.
And if you don't have it under control by now, then seriously, take some notes.
Right. Who's in charge here? You people, need. It's always easy to complain when you don't have to be the one fixing it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to do your complaints make you feel better?
No.
I think we could conclude from this that we do have a lot of fun with it on some instances, but I kind of imagined it like when people talk about being on drugs, like it feels good in the moment, and then,
Oh my goodness.
and then the effect doesn't last, and you can kind of start to spiral down, and complaint can breed complaint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Mhm, that's
it
true.
can get things rolling, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
never good. That's
I
not
love
good.
the pharmacist talk here, Julie. with the drugs.
Yeah. Well, I would say that the right answer is no, complaining doesn't make you feel better, but I feel like sometimes it does. Like I'm thinking about as moms, like over the years, if I've been in the same situation with other moms that feel the same way I do, and you just kind of complain about it, it can be really cathartic and you can feel like, oh, I'm not alone. Like I can think of days when our school district was off on snow days for like over a week, and all the moms would be laughing and partly crying, but all complaining together about like, seriously, we will scrape the roads for you if you will only get the buses running again. And we would laugh and complain, and it made us feel better.
Right.
Or like I was thinking about, you can't talk about this in every situation, but there have been moms that I've gotten together with, and you talk about taking teenagers on vacation. And like you can either feel really miserable privately on how your vacation went, or you can laugh about that with other moms that are also taking teenagers on vacation and think, okay, we're all in the same boat. We're all dealing with the same eye rolls and the same moodiness. And yeah, we're not a family failure. We're all in this together.
And how would we know this if we weren't complaining?
Exactly, Julie. So I do think that sometimes complaining makes us feel better to a point.
Okay. And maybe we should make the differentiation, because aren't there different types of complaints, don't you think? Like some of my complaints, because I remember walking with you, Marie, when our kids were a lot younger, and I was struggling and like looking for hope about Grant losing his lunchbox at school every single day.
I remember you saying that.
Oh my goodness. I was like, what do I do? Like you have sons, tell me, is there hope? And you talked about Davis and Isaac and, you know, the things that they would leave periodically and stuff. And it made me feel better. And so I felt like for that, I really was looking for hope. You know, like I was telling you about a problem, but I was looking for hope. And then there's other things that like the government, maybe that you can't fix, and you just got to talk about it, you know?
Right.
That's complaining for the sake of complaining.
Just the sake of, yeah.
Well, don't you think we do complain? Like if you think about the reasons why we might do it, it is to feel better in some way, because you're wanting somebody to agree with you, like see your point of view and be in agreement and kind of validate your feelings. I mean, that's why we do it, really, probably. So in that sense, it can make you feel better. But I don't know, maybe the ones in your head, you're not going to feel better about the internal.
I was looking up about complaining last night, and there was an article by Psychology Today. So I feel like these are people that probably know what they're talking about.
Experts.
But I was interested in some of the reasons they say that people do complain. Like we complain as a way of relieving stress. I never even thought about that, but we do. Like it's sometimes we can't do anything about the situation, but we're stressed out about it, and if we complain, we relieve some of that stress.
Venting.
We complain sometimes because we're depressed. So sometimes, you know, we complain because we can't solve the problem, but we just need to know that other people are in the problem, understand it. We can complain because it's part of a family or relationship culture. We can complain to get attention. So I thought, wow, I never thought about the reasons that we might. But you're right, Julie. Sometimes we do, in a weird way, complain to make ourselves feel better. And that made me feel a little bit more sympathetic towards my kids that complain. Like maybe it is a way of trying to make themselves feel better.
Right. Yeah. And they want to be heard and say, you're right, that is a terrible thing. Or what, you know, they want some validation.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, does complaining ever solve anything? And can it be constructive? We already said that it doesn't necessarily make us feel better all the time, but does it ever solve anything? Like I said, I think sometimes if we're complaining about things that actually could be solved, it kind of is the impetus for us to do something, especially if somebody says, you've been complaining about that for a while. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to say, is that I guess sometimes when I'm, disgruntled and I'm talking to Bryce about it, he's wise enough to ask, are you looking for help? like, did you just need to talk, or like you want me to like help? Cause you just let me know.
And I've got some thoughts.
There's sometimes I'm like, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I just need to tell you this. And but I will think about it, and someone, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready to fix it. I think I'm done talking about it. Maybe we should try to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can complain just for the sake of complaining,
Mm-hmm.
which is just the venting. I need to get this out and I'll feel better. Or, if it's not very constructive if you're not looking for a solution. And I think if John has said this one time to me, he said it 100, because my husband doesn't complain about anything except the government. So he'll say, have you, like he said, I'm fine listening to this, but have you really talked to the person that might be able to give you the answer you're looking for? Maybe it's the doctor. Maybe it's the customer service manager at CVS. Like, it's okay. I'll take it all, but I can't fix it. Maybe, is there somebody that you could talk to that really could help you resolve it? And he said, I don't mind listening as long as you're going to talk to that person too. The person that can actually fix it. Like, it maybe not be a complaint, but just even questions,
Sure.
Like, ask the right people to get the right solution.
Yeah.
So I do think it should be an impetus to find a solution, because if you're just, hearing all the regurgitation of all that's wrong, you're just learning more about what's wrong. You're not leaving any room for, like, okay, so what do we do about this?
I'm thinking of the times too. I mean, I don't take pleasure in this, but sometimes I want my complaint to go on record for certain things, because for certain situations, if they get enough complaints, sometimes they'll change the policy. Sometimes they'll change the way they're doing something. Sometimes you can affect change by being one of the people that complains, because once they receive enough of those, it moves them to take action. And if I just sit at home and complain to my family, and I don't complain to, like you said, Julie, somebody that might be able to do something about it.
Yeah, that's getting it to the right person. Yes.
Right. So, and I think sometimes we're conditioned to be like, oh, well, I shouldn't complain. So we don't bring those things to people's attention. But really, it's needed sometimes. Somebody has to call it what it is so that something can change.
Right. Yeah. And that's a healthy way, especially if, I think you can complain in a nice way, if I could put it like that. There's different ways you can verbalize something like that. But yeah, sometimes it's needed for good change.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's frustrating to listeners when we complain. Like you said, some frustration or complaining is kind of fun because you can identify and find a common ground with somebody. But when it becomes frustrating to the listener is when you're never willing to take responsibility. When you could do something different. Like I could, find another pharmacy or, or, find a different grocery store or take a different route or don't go out during rush hour. Like there's maybe some ways I could deal with that.
Right.
But if you're just never willing to take responsibility, that's when it becomes frustrating for the listener.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some action points, because we want to figure out how we can complain less, because even though we sometimes are constructive in our complaining, the vast majority of the time we're not. So what kind of actions can we take to stop complaining? Do either of you guys have anything besides just putting duct tape over our mouths?
Well, one thing that I immediately went to was just acceptance, because this is another thing that my husband has said. If he said it once, he said it 100 times, is...
We need to have John on for this podcast.
I know.
Is accept your reality. A lot of my complaints are, I wish it was this way, or why couldn't this have happened, or why couldn't this, and he's like, I agree. I totally agree, but it's not. It's this way. So, and it's not that you can't be sad or disappointed or upset about it, but the only thing you can act on is what is really happening.
True.
And that's a really kind of a simplified way to look at it. It's not easy, but it is simple, to just, this is what we get. This is what we have to go with. So this is what we're going to make the best of, acceptance.
That is huge, Julie. Acceptance. I mean, that's like the biggest, thing to learn out of the whole thing, because I think there's different levels of complaining, and we talked about different reasons for complaining, but I think for some people, like that's their pastime. Like there's certain people that I know that that's just how they talk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And but also it's something that I get okay, also how long the complaint takes actually matters to me. So if I were to have
sweet, it's okay.
What is it?
Short and sweet is okay. But
Short and sweet, bullet point it, leave all the emotion out, and I can handle it. But I feel that way towards myself as well. I think, okay, if I could allow one sentence, like I'm not gonna go over this for an hour. I'm tired of thinking it. I'm tired of feeling it. I think if I can get one sentence out, bullet point it, get it out, and I'm done. Then that to me is kind of healthy if you can name it in a sentence. And it's not a whole conversation, because there's some things that I'm like, I really don't want to talk about it for long. I know I have to get it out, but I don't want to talk about it because I don't want it to ruin the rest of my day. But I need to get it out so we can move on. Almost.
What are some actions you can take to stop complaining? I try to give myself maybe like a certain amount of time to complain about something, or my kids if they're complaining to me. And then I try to move to, well, what's one thing we could do towards fixing this problem? Like maybe we don't need to switch all our prescriptions today, but what's one thing we could do? Maybe the next time we get a prescription, they say, what pharmacy do you want it sent to? I'll send it to a different one. Or whatever. I'm picking on Julie, but it's an easy thing for me while we're talking. But like just trying to think of like one action step, or like with my kids, like just trying to think of, all right, well, I understand like that professor, he's annoying, he's piling on the work. Yes, that sounds totally unfair. Yes, I agree. But what's one thing you could do to make this situation better? Because I don't know, I feel like that kind of does move you away from complaining and maybe towards solving. So, in that spirit, we wanted to tell listeners some things that we've regularly complained about that we've taken responsibility for and fixed. And Julie, this was your idea. And so I just am dying to know what you said.
Well, I had heard this, I think it was on another podcast, and they said, don't allow yourself to complain. Like, think of something you've complained about a lot, but you can only complain if you can come up with the solution. Like, why are you never asking yourself how to fix it? Like we just don't do that enough. And so after David moved out, there went my reason for cooking. And John is not eating a lot of solid foods, and it's just me. And I just complained and complained and complained. I haven't been to the grocery in a month. I don't know what to get. I don't know what to eat. I'm eating junk food. I feel terrible. It was just all these complaints wrapped around meal planning and dinner and the whole empty nest and John's cancer. Like it just grew, it was just one complaint after another. I kind of mentioned it to my trainer and he threw out some ideas and I just basically thought about all the ways that wouldn't work,
Right.
And I thought, I guess I'm not ready to do anything about it. Like, well, when I'm ready, I'm just going to need to do something about it. So I took 2 days and did some meal planning and prepping, and I made bulk meals, but I didn't just freeze like a pan of lasagna or a whole thing of soup. I put it in little quart serving size baggies so that I could pull out a vegetable soup that was just going to be my bowl, And I did quiches and bran muffins, and I even made waffles. So I could just put them in the toaster oven.
Wow.
That's great.
And John helped me clean out the freezer. And he said, this was the most productive day we've had in a long time. Like he said, I want to help you do this more often. And probably secretly it was because he knew I would quit complaining about it. But it really was so satisfying to have a solution to something I had complained about. It was kind of taking over my thoughts, And so that felt really good. And then it prompts you to want to try it on other things too.
Yeah, to experience success like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great example. Yeah. Mindy, do you have anything that you've complained about and then fixed?
A couple of things.
Okay.
3 to be specific. Similar to Julie, I have complained about stores not having certain products that I need. Or, that I mean, since COVID,
Yeah.
things have not been normal in the
Mhm.
store. And it just seems like certain products take turns being out of stock. So I definitely was like getting to the point of, gosh, I can never find this. And, I'm in the store, I'm missing one thing. And,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so instead of going around to a bunch of stores, because I knew that was going to make me even more mad,
Mhm.
I just would go home and order it.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, that's a way to solve it. It's a good way.
Because to me, that was, there are just certain products, and I'm like, oh, well, okay.
Mhm.
Here's the game to play this month. Now I can't find this.
Right.
So I just get on and just order it. And for the most part, I can find what I'm looking for. Something else, a bigger thing is just certain things that the boys would leave sitting around the house, like
Mhm.
shoes and shorts and
Mhm.
of everything, cups.
Mhm.
I mean, there's stuff everywhere all the time.
Mhm.
And so instead of complaining about it, either I'm going to tell them to pick it up and it's not going to bother me until they're home, and I'm going to wait them out
Mhm.
and manage my emotions, or I'm just going to pick it up and I'm not going to have any emotions about it. I'm
Mm.
just going to do it because then I
Mhm.
can enjoy my house while they're at school and work.
Right.
So those, I feel like
There's
those
some
are the two.
acceptance in there.
Yeah. It's just, okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's this or that,
And then I think the biggest one is, this is the one I have to manage more, is I love to procrastinate.
Mm.
And I say that, but I mean, I don't love it because I hate the effects of procrastinating.
Mhm.
So I would find myself saying, oh, getting stressed. I don't have enough time to do this, or I don't have enough time to do that, or I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. Now I have to do this. Well, it's my own fault. Like I'm staying up late because I did not use my time wisely. And so when I find myself procrastinating, putting something off over and over again, that's something that I just need to. I still think of Gretchen Rubin, suffer for 15 minutes.
Yes. Yes.
I literally still tell myself, just suffer for 15 minutes and do something about it. And then I get to go to bed early, like I like.
Yeah.
Oh, I can relate to that suffering for 15 minutes because I turned 50 this year, and you're supposed to have a colonoscopy when you turn 50. But I already had one when I was 45, and technically they moved the new time to start in the last 5 years to 45. So I thought, well, am I good till 55 now? Can I skip? Like, what do I have to do? But when I had my colonoscopy at 45, I specifically said, can I just come back in 10 years? And he said, no, you still need to start when you're 50. So anyways, that was in the back of my mind. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know how to find out the answer to this question. I don't want to have a colonoscopy. So it's like this dread every time I even hear the word. Of course, when you don't want to do something, you see a million headlines like, get your colonoscopy.
Right.
So it's always in my face. So I finally decided, all right, I am just going to call the doctor's office and leave a message with the nurse and say, here's my situation. Well, they have that messaging thing, which I forgot about. Like a lot of doctors now, they have where they'll like kind of email you back and forth, but it's through the apps. Have you guys ever used those for doctor's offices?
Yes, I love it.
I like it too. Kind of, but it's like a message and they get to it when they can. So the nurse messaged me back and said, I asked the doctor and he said that you need to come back after 7 years. So like I would come back at 52. And so I thought, well, I wonder why he said that, because that wasn't what I was expecting. I was thinking either 10 or 5. So then I had a big pit of dread, like, oh, do I really want to message back? But I messaged back and I said, I totally appreciate you checking and I totally respect what he said, but I really just for my own peace of mind need to know why 7 years, just so that I'll know. Right. And then she sends me back a message. These were his exact words. And so then she just quoted him and he had explained it. He had said why. And he said it was something about at 45, they didn't look as closely as they would at 50. And so he said, come back at the 7-year point instead of the 10. Anyways, he had a reason and he'd already addressed it. I just didn't know that he'd already addressed it. And I was just dreading even asking. So now I thought, yay, I have a 2-year reprieve. I don't have to get a colonoscopy for another 2 years. And it made me feel good that I had finally just gone ahead and asked.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was an internal complaint. That was a huge dread to me.
Mhm.
Another thing that was a big dread to me was replacing my van. I was 15 years old. I knew I needed to replace my car. Every time I thought about it, I just had such dread because I hate car shopping. But one Saturday, I finally went down and looked, and I knew what would happen when I bought a car. I would descend into an absolute basket case if I made the wrong choice. That was so stupid. I should have kept my old car. What was I thinking? I already knew that I would go down into a deep, dark pit. So I was also dreading that. But I ended up replacing my van. I went down into the deep, dark pit of why do I always make the worst decisions? But I came out of it after a week, and now I've been okay. But I knew that the car buying experience would be full of just a pitfall for me. Like, some people are going to go down there and buy a new car. They're going to be like, yay, and go out with their windows down. They're never going to give another thought except happiness. I need to go through the stage of, why did I ever buy this vehicle? I should have just kept my old one.
Oh.
So that was a feeling of dread. But I did think about this because Julie had said earlier in the month, like, think about things that you've solved. And that was an internal complaint about mine that I did solve. And the last one I wanted to share was my bathroom. House was built in 1987. I have vanities that have like the old kind of countertop. It doesn't really bother me that much, but I know that if I ever want to sell the house, or just I know that I should technically update these. But every time I think about it, I think about the mess and the having to pick something. So I finally just thought, well, what's one thing I could do towards a step in the right direction? I will text Julie and see where she got hers done.
And she did.
And Julie got back to me way faster than she needed to because I was fine with my one action step.
Right. Yeah, don't respond because then I'll have to have a second action step.
I gave her the name of the store. Now she has to call them.
Yes. No. And I had actually found them online and thought, oh, that's the one I just found. So I actually went down there that day, Julie.
Wow.
And I walked in and I said, okay, I have these old vanities. These are roughly the dimensions. She's like, oh, I know just what you mean. I said, my friend got remnants here. She said, you'll come and install them. Yes, we do. She takes me in the back room, and there's like, another reason I was dreading it was because I don't care that much, and I don't want to think about what to get. And so she's like, well, here's all the choices. It's like a room full of choices. I'm like, I don't know. I said, could you just point me to like what's popular choice? She goes, well, this is our most popular choice. And I said, and it was reasonable. And I said, oh, looks good to me. I said, I'm just getting that one. So I didn't even look at any of the other ones.
Hooray!
Because the choice of vanity does not matter enough for me to stress out about it. And it was just, I can't have that many choices. I think she actually ended up giving me 3, and I just picked the most popular of those 3.
I was about to say, wasn't it fun? I love
No,
going
it was
downstairs.
not fun. And so I made my appointment. They're going to come out and measure next week. I had my husband take down the glued on big mirror, that I've been also dreading because I thought it's going to rip the drywall off. I'm going to have to do patching. I said to my Dad, I ripped off that big mirror. Would you come over and see if my wall is salvageable? And I'm sure he's listening to this at some point. And thank you, Dad, because he not only came to see if my wall was salvageable, but he brought all of his mud and he's making it salvageable for me. So, which I kind of was hoping that he would do.
Oh, yay. Thanks, Dad.
But that was 3 things this month that I felt like, okay, these have been pain points in my life, like things that come up in my mind that, darn it, I don't want to solve this problem. But Julie's asking us to do an episode on solving problems, so maybe I should do one thing.
Well, and see, just getting started, that's all it took.
Yes. A lot of times it's just get started.
I know.
Yeah,
the first step is so hard because you can live with dread and complaints for a really long time before you're willing to accept.
I know.
Move forward.
Yes. So anyways, listeners, be inspired by the small things that we have tackled. If you find yourself dreading or complaining, just make one step.
One thing that I thought was really interesting when I mentioned that I had heard this question asked on a podcast was they also had another solution.
Oh, what was it?
Tell us.
So you could fix it. You could find a solution to your complaint, or you could quit complaining.
Oh,
you could just say, this is the way it is. I don't really want to fix, or I'll fix it later.
Mm-hmm.
or it's beyond my ability, whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
And you could just choose to live in that same circumstance and just not complain about it. And I thought that was really powerful. Like, it
Yes.
doesn't always have to be fixed. It doesn't always have to come up with this big solution. Like, you could just say, I'm not going to complain right now about that.
Right.
Yeah. And that is something that
Kind of freeing.
is freeing. Is there
It
anything that
is.
you've decided not to complain about anymore and just accept?
Well, I wasn't going to, I didn't know if I was going to tell what it was, but
We got to tell
It's
now.
it's actually just my my fitness level, like my
Oh.
activity and my exercise routine and all that. Like, I've kind of let some of it go, and I've gained a little weight. I can't wear some clothes. It's not anything that maybe anybody would even notice,
Mm-hmm.
but it matters to me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've complained about it and
Mm.
complained about it.
To John
And I-
or to yourself or to friends?
A lot of it to myself.
Okay, to
Yeah.
yourself. Okay.
And John, I throw out some zingers to him, like, and I get nothing in response. So I thought, where I am right now, I don't really think I can give it anymore,
Mm. Mhm.
and I'm just going to quit complaining about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like,
Mhm.
I'm 10, 15 pounds heavier than I was. You know what? I'm just
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just going to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's
just
okay.
and that's for right now. Like, I don't
Yes.
have to fix this right now. But
Right.
I don't need to just sit and complain about it.
Right. I remember making that transition in my own mind, Julie. I really did. And it was with 15 pounds. And
Mhm.
and I got to the point where I knew I couldn't do anything. I wasn't in a place to really
Mhm.
feel like I could tackle it. And I was like, well, these are my 15 pounds, and we're just going to, be best friends until the day that I wake up and things change. And it's
Right.
not today.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
But that day did come. It was months later where it's like I can't even tell you what changed, but
Mhm.
something it's like, okay, now's the time and I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
had no guilt or shame about it because I had come to that place of just it is what it is.
Mhm.
And that's where
Mhm.
I'm at right now.
Yeah.
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 I think we can beat ourselves up. Like, that
Mhm.
inner critic comes in, and
Mhm.
that can cause complaining, and then complaining against yourself and
Right.
how you're not doing right, doing well, and like, I'm doing all I can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I was thinking about something that I'm trying not to complain about, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do, and I don't know if it's a sexist thing to do, but there comes a point, I think it came with Davis, and it certainly come with Isaac, where I'm just not going to complain about their state of mess anymore. Like, I only have to live with them a couple more years, and then I'm just going to let their wife take care of that, because, like, I've already had enough arguing about that. I don't want to spend my time with my son arguing about that, because it's going in one ear and out the other. It's just annoying to them. They're not changing.
Right.
They're the same level of mess as they were before I started complaining. It's kind of like what you said, Mindy, about picking up. I don't know. It just, and I do complain less with my girls, but like, especially with the boys, it's just kind of like, you know what? I don't have that much time left with them. And
Right.
they are going to be boys and boys and men just don't care that much about cleaning up the way that I want it to be cleaned up,
Yeah.
So I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'll never lose my temper, but if Isaac's listening, like, I really do, like, just let a lot of it slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. David's last year of college, it wasn't like a messy bathroom, and it was more just like my kitchen island was always the dumping ground, for what
Yeah.
he brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And if I moved it, it got lost, and then we got into arguments. So I just kind of learned to, like, I thought, he's only here another year. I'm just gonna, someday he won't be here, and I'll be complaining about that. So I'm just gonna quit complaining.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really did. I just let it go, and sometimes I would tidy up and move, but I didn't talk about it.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I do think that that's even happened more with Lydia and Lauren. It's not as fresh in my mind with them because they only just left for school. But like when they've been home for their couple times, you know what? If they just left everything the way it was and went back to school, that's fine.
Right.
I just don't, it's just not worth it for me to argue with my college kids about stuff like that because they're only home and I want the time to be enjoyable.
Right. I know another, maybe it's a reframing thing, but and it kind of happened during COVID where I was overwhelmed by all the stuff because all the people were home all the time. But
The people.
all the people.
I always refer to my family as the people too.
The people. Yes. So like I know going into every weekend, my house is going to look like a tornado went through it. And I have learned to be thankful for that. Like I genuinely think, oh, my family is here and we're living in it, you know, and I'm glad. And then on Sunday night, I'm like, you better pick up all your junk because you're going to be gone.
You can only live so long.
Listen, I know it's one of those things. Either I'm going to clean it up or I'm going to find a way to say something and hold them accountable. Because even last night, we were watching an NBA game because FYI, NBA has started back up this week.
Oh, I had no idea, Mindy.
I'm just letting you know the Golden State Warriors have already won their first game. All right.
Oh.
But I literally turned around and there's like 20 cups sitting on my kitchen island. I paused the live game and I told all three of my boys, okay, my two, teens and my one big boy. And I said, if you guys would just turn around and look and go pick up yours and put it in the dishwasher, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And then I will start the game back.
Right.
And see, that's not a complaint. That was fun.
No.
Happy. Yeah.
It was happy. I was kind of making fun of them because they love that. And also they weren't going to see the game till they did it, but there was an action involved at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There just comes a time when there are just things that just aren't worth the battle anymore. The trade-off.
Yes.
So sorry for all those future spouses out there. You'll get to the point with your own kids where you're like, you know what? They're going to be soon gone. Let their spouse deal with it.
I know. Okay. Chasing a squirrel here, but I have joked with my sons that when they get married, I'm going to make them wear a t-shirt that said, I tried.
Yes.
Love,
I often told that to Davis.
I tried. Yeah. Just so you know, we did work on these things at home.
Well, here's what I found. When my boys moved out, they got to be neat necks.
Oh, okay.
Rude.
Oh, yeah. They're super neat and clean now. Yeah.
Oh, and does it translate to your own kitchen now?
No. Just their stuff.
Yeah, just their stuff. Okay.
But that's good. That's okay. They were watching and learning and paid attention at some point.
All right.
Well, at least your future daughter-in-law probably will think that you did that then, Julie. So that's good. You'll be getting some credit. All right. Well, listeners, I don't know if we've solved the world's complaining problem, but we have had a good discussion about it. And I'm not going to be able to give up my kind of humor complaining. Like, I don't know, Julie, when we get on a good complaining fest when we're walking, I just sometimes really enjoy that.
Let's go talk about the government.
Yes. But I know I need to have less negativity, like the dread and a lot of it is just because I just don't even want to make the first step. Listeners, we would love for you to come and find us this week on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast or email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com and tell us if you take the first step on anything, big or small, because then we can all be inspired to tackle our next problem.
Listen, I thought this whole episode was we're complaining about complaining.
All right. Well, we will end on a happy note by sharing our I'm a fan. All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
Hey, I am a fan of a movie that I just watched the other night, and it's called Jerry and Marge Go Large. Have you seen it?
No. Is it new, old, or what?
It's 2022.
Really? Okay.
And it's a comedy drama, and it stars Annette Bening and Bryan Cranston.
Oh.
And it is based on a true story. So once again, it's quirky, unbelievable, but when you find out it's true, that always makes me like it more.
Oh.
And
where'd you watch it?
Story. It was on Paramount, which we have through Amazon. Okay. And I wanted to say, if you join Walmart Plus, you get Paramount.
Really?
In case you're trying to make a decision about that.
Yes.
But it's based on a true story, and it's this older couple that is just retired. The man is just retired. And I think what I loved about it is I've never seen Annette Bening. I mean, she looks like a real person. Let me just say.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They just look like, I don't know, the way I remember my grandparents, even the way they moved and acted
Oh.
and the way they dress. It's just kind of like
Fun.
in the middle, like they're just,
Mm-hmm.
they just have
Just
that
got it spot
stereotypical
on.
dress. Yeah. And the husband has a very mathematical mind, and he finds a loophole in the Massachusetts lottery, and he wins millions of dollars.
Oh.
And it's just a very heartwarming, feel-good movie because of what they use the money for. Like I won't tell you, but it's
Okay.
just,
That sounds good.
yeah, it's not like action-packed, but it's just, they're just kind of quirky. Yeah.
Okay.
And you love them. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's
Jerry
cool.
and Marge go large.
All right. I wonder if that was ever in the theaters. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of stopping something that I used to complain about all
Okay.
the time. And this has been a big change to my routine, and it has made me so happy. So I used to dread and then also verbally complain that when I had to take a shower, like my hair took a while to dry and then I had to blow dry it. But I want,
Mm-hmm.
it was just this whole thing. So one night, it's been a couple months now,
Mm-hmm.
I stopped blow drying my hair.
Oh.
And I didn't even worry about taking a shower long enough for it to dry. Just I would still put it up on top of my head if it was wet
Mhm.
and just go to bed.
Mm.
And I would get up and then I let it down and let it dry. Do you know this has made me so happy to not blow dry my hair
Yeah.
and to not have to time my shower and washing my hair? Like,
Mm.
because I used to stay up late.
Okay.
It was a whole process
And
of
it doesn't get all like kind of mine. I feel like it would be all like maybe curly on one side and flat on the other or anything like that.
my hair is already half curly, half straight.
Okay.
And so I realized like Giselle Bundchen, she wears
Mhm.
her hair and it's never like perfectly straight or perfectly curly. And I'm like,
Okay.
I'm going to be like Giselle Bundchen's hair.
Well, at least you have a good person to model
Not
yourself
really.
after.
Not really.
I'm gonna take a look at her pictures next time.
Her hair is never like, it's never like perfectly something,
Yes.
anything.
If it's good enough for a model, it is good enough
And
for
I'm
you.
like, okay. So, but I'm telling you what, this has brought me so much happiness though, to finally stop a routine that I hated doing.
It's better for your hair too.
Yeah.
Yes. Also,
Yeah.
yeah, Julie, like also I'm like, okay, I'm not drying it out as much. It's not as,
Mhm.
it feels softer and it's been longer. So like, I just don't want it to be as damaged. And so
Yeah. That's
all the way
awesome.
around, much happier.
Okay. And you're not dreading that every night. That's good.
Not dreading it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I am a fan of a 6-part Netflix series that you may have seen. It's called The Empress. Have you seen it
Oh,
advertised on Netflix? So, all last week I was living in the 1800s. I was the Empress Elizabeth of Austria because it was such a good, such a
wow.
good series. It's only 6 parts, though. I was so disappointed when the last one ended. But anyways, I did not know anything about this, but The Empress tells the story of the early life of Empress Elizabeth of Austria. In the first 6 that are out, it's how she and her husband fall in love and get married. But there's a lot of drama and intrigue because there always is in these types of things. But anyways, as is often the case with period dramas, the Empress mixes historical background with fiction. So it's not totally historically accurate, but it does give you a compelling love story that captivates the hearts and minds of the audience. And Mindy and Julie, you know I love a good love story. So anyways, you are going to learn about the Viennese court. You're going to learn all about being an empress. And I really think you're going to enjoy it. I saw someone else post about it on Facebook and they loved it. And then the other
Okay.
people that commented loved it. So I thought, well, I'm going to watch it. And I watched the whole thing in just a couple days. 'Cause it was
very
really
good. Well,
That
especially with
sounds
it getting darker outside, there's more time to watch stuff.
For sure. And I watched it by myself. I don't think my husband would have been interested. So it's
Okay.
kind of like a little treat for myself.
Is it in German?
Oh, yes. I need
Yeah.
to tell you that. So in the comments, people said you can either watch it dubbed in British, like they'll have British, but it's dubbed, or you can watch it in the original German with the subtitles. And I watched it in the original German with the subtitles because I don't like the mouth not to match the words. And I did not mind that at all. I sort of felt like I could talk German by the end. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. Julie, I think you'd like it.
Yeah, I might give that a try because I love historical fiction. And
yeah.
I think Bryce would love that. I'm so glad you told me that he lived in Germany for a while, and he also took years of German.
Oh, well, he probably would enjoy
John,
it.
I bet he'd probably like to watch it in German.
He would probably love to hear it in German.
Yes. So it was interesting. Right now, then I got out an audiobook from the library that someone else had written about her because I just thought, wow, what an interesting historical figure. I want to learn more, especially since they probably won't make a second season for a couple years.
Oh,
right.
And I need to know what happened.
I'm going to wait till all those come out.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, you guys, I love talking with you and kind of half-heartedly funny complaining.
Yeah.
But anyways, listeners, we hope that you enjoyed this episode and you take it with the spirit that we intended.
It was fun.
Yeah. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.
Sounds great.
Bye. We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.